On a quiet street brushed by gentle rain, Han watched as Sungtae, his demeanor polite and thoughtful, offered an umbrella while explaining that a kind nun had lent it to him, prompting Han to ask if Sungtae had arrived by bus. Sungtae hesitated with visible nerves as he raised his hand, explaining that he had arrived in the car his older brother bought and nervously offering Han a ride. Han offered a gentle smile as he expressed his gratitude and shared his plan to visit the priest first, while Sungtae, composed and respectful, agreed that he would go say goodbye to the child from earlier. The quiet corridor, Han wandered alone, his thoughts circling around the earlier conversation as he wondered why he was being called again, yet resolved that he should still say goodbye before departing. In a dimly lit room heavy with tension, Han, his expression marked by vulnerability, pressed his forehead against the chest of the stoic gray-haired man, seeking solace or perhaps answers in the silent space between them. Han, visibly nervous, apologized and was softly told that everything was all right. In a muted, uncertain light, a gray-haired man paused mid-sentence, his hesitation making it clear he was struggling to voice what weighed on his mind. In a quiet, sunlit room, Han's concerned gaze fixed forward as he gently asked if something was wrong, his voice carrying the weight of genuine worry. In a shadowed room thick with tension, a mysterious gray-haired man reached out with a gloved hand, his calm touch resting on Han's brow as the anxious young man squeezed his eyes shut, bracing for what might come next. In a quiet, softly lit room, a gray-haired man leaned in with gentle concern, calmly telling his companion that a strand of hair was resting on their forehead. Reacting to the man's gentle gesture, Han offered a nervous yet heartfelt thanks, his gratitude softening the charged atmosphere between them. The respectful gray-haired man offered a calm farewell to Han, politely excusing himself as he turned to leave, sensing Han had pressing matters to attend. As Han watched the gray-haired man retreat down the hallway, he quietly reflected on the other's youthful grace. The sound of a door opening interrupted Han's thoughts, as father greeted him with a calm welcome, acknowledging his arrival. In a room thick with tension, the man known as father set a sealed letter gently on the table, his determined expression betraying the seriousness of Representative Choi Il-ho's request as he explained that he had been entrusted to deliver this important message. Bathed in the warm glow of a book-lined room, Han sat absorbed in the faded words of an old letter, the weight of forgotten years pressing on him as he quietly admitted to himself that the memory had returned just a little too late. On a quiet, contemplative morning, a hand emerged from the shadows, carefully holding a slip of paper inscribed with a thought-provoking reflection on the internal battle between good and evil. In the muted light of an abandoned room, Han's sharp gaze traced the fissures of an ancient, weathered surface, quietly remarking on its age with contemplative curiosity. Hans gripped a crumpled piece of paper, the weight of that fateful day pressing into trembling fingers. Han offered a reassuring smile as he asked that someone be told he had thrown it away. In a shadow-drenched room where swirling lines hinted at turmoil, Han and father, gray-haired man stood locked in a silent standoff, tension crackling between them as unease and contemplation warred in the charged air. In a muted glow of a dimly lit space, father reached out with resolute hands to take the crumpled object from the reluctant, apologetic Han, assuring him quietly that he would handle its disposal and expressing his understanding for the awkward moment. On a quiet afternoon, the gentle presence of a leafy plant softened the scene as a careless hand sent a piece of trash tumbling toward the waiting bin. Father said that it served no purpose, should be discarded without hesitation. In a sunlit room filled with quiet anticipation, Han bowed slightly as he asked with hopeful calm if he might be allowed to leave. Responding with gentle warmth, the man called father clasped his hands and invited Han to visit often, assuring him that the children would be delighted and offering a heartfelt blessing for the Lord's presence to remain with him. On a rain-soaked street shadowed by a looming pillar, Han stood motionless as Hyup hurried toward him, anxiety sharp in his voice as he called out to his older friend through the downpour. Rain fell softly as Han and Sungtae huddled close beneath a shared umbrella, the air between them charged with nervous intimacy as Sungtae, voice quivering, admitted he had parked the car nearby and urged that they go. On a rain-soaked street, Han and Sungtae stood close beneath a single umbrella, the gentle hush of falling water surrounding their quiet moment of care. In the soft hush of rain, a gentle gray-haired man reached out to Han with a comforting touch, reflecting that Han would one day make such thoughtful gestures for someone he cared about. Inside a dimly lit car gliding through unfamiliar streets, Sungtae gripped the steering wheel with anxious uncertainty as he asked Han where they were headed and offered to set the navigator. On a rain-soaked night, Han's thoughtful face appeared in the car's rearview mirror, gratitude flickering in his eyes as he reflected on how well the vehicle, gifted by Sungtae, had endured, quietly expressing his thanks despite earlier worries. On the shimmering edge of a restless city, Han gazed downward, his calm facade betraying irritation as he admitted that things would be easier if not for the relentless grip of traffic. In a dim glow of early morning, Han sat hunched over his smartphone at 4:31, resentment simmering as he silently judged Choi Il-ho for continuing to sponsor the facility without a hint of conscience. Beneath cool, muted light in a quiet office, Sung-tae watched Han clutch his phone, his wary gaze meeting a contemplative silence as the weight of unspoken guilt lingered between them. Han, his expression steeled by certainty as he resolved that Choi Il-ho was responsible for the fire. On a somber morning in Seoul, the city reeled as a newspaper headline revealed the devastating loss of 20 children in a tragic orphanage fire. His thoughts weighted with seriousness as he discovered a postcard left behind by Choi Il-ho. Han sat alone in the shadowy interior of his car, his gaze fixed on the phone in his hand as a wave of uneasy reflection left him quietly admitting to himself that even remembering it made his head spin. Han gazed out the window in thought while Sung-tae, attentive at the wheel, asked if he was bored or wanted the radio, to which Han gently declined and instead requested the heater be turned down, their calm conversation lingering in the warm air. Han offered a nervous apology, prompting Sung-tae, his grip tight on the seat, to respond with a tense assurance that everything was fine, though his anxious expression betrayed lingering discomfort. Han's face filled the frame as he offered a sincere apology, explaining with a hint of regret that he had spoken Yun Hyup's name out of habit. Sung-tae forced a nervous smile as he buckled his seatbelt, assuring the passenger not to worry despite the anxiety flickering in his eyes. On a quiet stretch of pavement, Han sat beside Sung-tae, nervously scratching his head as he admitted responsibility and awkwardly explained that he tried using Zimzalabim as a trendy apology, while Sung-tae listened in stoic silence, unamused by the attempt. Han broke the casual tension between them by suggesting to Sung-tae, with a hint of mischief, that since they were both already soaked, perhaps one of them should take a shower first. Han clutched his phone tightly, hesitating before anxiously asking if he could go first and if Hae-hyung happened to have a charger. In the gentle glow of the desk lamp, a sense of quiet camaraderie filled the room as one person offered the use of a plugged-in device and the other, a bit hesitant, expressed gratitude, met with a reassuring response that it was no trouble at all. In a cramped bathroom, Han hurriedly prepared to clean himself off, his anxious thoughts focused on not keeping Sung-tae waiting. Han silently questioned whether the mysterious request from Choi Il-ho's wife could truly be coincidence. As Han throws his black jacket on the green machine, his thoughts heavy as he reflected on how, just like Director Yoon from his past, someone had deliberately approached him. Now, as the shadowy visage of Choi Il-ho loomed behind him, Han wrestled with growing suspicion, admitting inwardly that he could not discern what hidden motives might lie behind this latest request. Against a pale, luminous backdrop, Han stood resolute and contemplative, deciding he must face the next challenge alone and determined to warn Yun Hyup not to follow, unwilling to risk anyone else getting drawn into danger. Moments later, as the resolve faded from his eyes, Han peered into the nearly deserted office cluttered with boxes and desks, voicing his concern that Seong-tae had slipped away without a word. Smartphone trembled with sudden urgency, its insistent vibration slicing through the suspenseful silence. Grabbing the phone with anxious hands, Han urgently addressed Seong-tae, but to his surprise it was assistant manager Lee Hyung-tae and not Sung-tae. On an ordinary afternoon tinged with awkwardness, Han stood with his phone in hand, scratching his head as he apologized for his confusion and then asked what was wrong. In a cluttered room lined with shelves and boxes, Han stood with a phone in hand, his focused expression reflecting the seriousness as assistant manager Lee Hyung-tae explained that he had sent the requested photo of Hyung-kyung via text and was now following up since there had been no reply. Han, ever composed in his crisp white shirt, offered a gentle smile as he courteously concluded a brief phone call, promising to attend to the matter at once before wishing the caller well. As Han ended the call, curiosity took over, prompting him to unlock his smartphone and scrutinize the blurred photo of Hyung-kyung, while a teasing message questioned whether this face surpassed the looks of Hyup and Director Yoon. In a dimly lit room, Han stared at his phone, suspicion flickering across his face as he wondered aloud why Director Yoon appeared in the message before him. As the loading icon spun on his screen, he mused internally that this person was nothing like Director Yoon, convinced that Hyung-kyung's looks alone could be valued at 10 million won. Han stood frozen in place, his eyes wide with surprise as he stared at the phone in his hand, startled by an unexpected message that shattered his calm. The phone trembled in Han's grasp as a calm young man with dark hair appeared in his thoughts, the name Kim Sung-tae surfacing with a mix of curiosity and disbelief.